Welcome to Week 9 Practice Exercises. In this video, we're going to create a flexible budget. But before we get started, let's talk about the difference between a static and a flexible budget. Most of us are familiar with the concept of static budgeting because we normally do this with our personal budgets. So when we are projecting our gas expense for the week, we may not consider how many trips that we're going to make or how far we're going to have to drive. Maybe with your grocery expense, you might have forgotten that your family's going to visit on Tuesday. So a flexible budget decouples the fixed and the variable expenses, and it makes it a little bit easier to adjust for changes in activity. So let's go ahead and get started with our problem set. So we're going to create a flexible budget, and it's going to be based on the following data. We have variable expenses here. Sales commissions and advertising expense are both variable. We also have some activities that are a combination of fixed expenses and variable expenses. And so in this flexible selling and administrative expense budget, we're again going to decouple the variable piece from the fixed piece. So let's go ahead and get started. In this problem set, we were also told what our total sales are going to be. So all of this information is going to be based on sales of $500,000, $750,000, and $1 million. With our sales commission, we know that it is 8% of sales. So I'm going to pick up my sales and I'm going to multiply it by the 8%. I'm going to do the same thing with advertising expense. Miscellaneous administrative expense. There's my 4% over there. And with my customer service expense. And then I'm going to sum this up. So my equals, sum, and then I'm just going to capture these four cells. So this tells me that based on sales of $500,000, these are my total variable costs. I'm going to go ahead and do that for $750,000 and $1 million. And the last one, we're going to pause a moment and look at how things have changed. And I'm just going to pull this formula over. So we can see that going from $500,000 in sales to $750,000 in sales increases our total variable expenses. Let's go ahead and do the 1 million. And let's see how that changed as well. Okay, so you can see that as we ramp up with our total sales, we're also ramping up the total variable costs. But now what about our fixed costs? Our fixed costs should be pretty easy. We're just going to reach up and grab the miscellaneous administrative expenses, office expenses, and you know what I can do, because these are sequential, is I can actually just drag this down. So now let me put my line back down there. So now our total fixed costs remain or are $155,000. I'm now going to sum up my total variable and my total fixed cost for this activity level. And this shows that my total selling and administrative expenses at this activity level are $440,000. Let's go ahead and do the same thing. I'm actually going to, just to make this easier, I'm going to drag these over. And I know that my fixed expenses are not going to change even if my activity level changes. So I'm actually just going to copy these over, and I'm going to paste over their values. And because I like my lines to be there, I'm going to add in my border. There we go. So we can see that our total fixed costs did not change from period to or from activity level to activity level because it's fixed. But we do see that our total variable costs do change as the activity level changes. So what's the value? I'm just going to scroll down a little bit because I do have some points here. What's the value of using a flexible budget? First thing is that you can see that it changes or it responds very quickly with changes in activity. And you're only going to see these changes in the variable cost section. It's very adaptable. So as we see economic shocks, maybe one of the scenarios that we run is not $750,000 worth of sales, but maybe it's $300,000. And we can very quickly see how our bottom line changes if we're only selling $300,000. This is really easy to use if you are running any excursions or what if analysis. And an excursion is it's a cost estimating term where, you know, we say, okay, what if my sales drops to 300,000? What if my sales commissions, maybe I change my sales commissions and it's no longer 8%, but it's now 9% of sales. So that would be considered an excursion. Some people will call it what if drills, and the reason that we call it what if drills is that in Excel there's actually a box that's called what if. And this is really also used for decision support. So when we're thinking about maybe we're going to consider reducing some of our research and development expenses, or we are going to spin off an entire segment or an entire product, we want to know how is this going to impact our income statement. And this is one of the first places that we start to determine, you know, what are the expenses that will be affected by the, discontinuing a product or spinning off a segment, and which items will not be affected. And that's going to be our fixed costs. Okay, thanks so much for joining me, and I'll see you in the next video.